What's going on, guys? This is Yacineygo, and today we're going to be going over the best budget decks to play this format, and the decks that are actually a good long-term investment, because if you have actually looked ahead at the next set, so Doom of Dimensions and like Phantom Avengers and whatever, there's a lot of cool potential, strategies that will become much better than they currently are, and also some special sets. So, for example, I've got the Shining Sarcophagus deck here for a very good reason. And that's because it's actually started doing really well in the OCG because of Dark Magician of Destruction, and this is like one of the best decks at abusing this. So yeah, anyways, before we go any further, you already know the drill. Is always smash the like and subscribe button. Really motivates me a lot to keep making videos like these, and also huge massive shoutouts to my Justice Hunter spreadsheet. You can find it on my website, yacineygo.com. So there is, K9 Vanquish Soul, K9 Crystron, Dragon Tail, and Yummy, and also a spreadsheet that covers all of those decks. So again, you can find it at the very top of the description box below. And with that being said, let's get right into it. Okay, so I got 4 categories. So best long-term investment, solid value, then cheap and decent, and locals only deck. And Dragon Tail is a deck that is going to be a very good long-term investment because it is a fusion deck that just... I mean, it's so easy to splash another fusion engine in it. So it's just like, it's perfect, honestly, for that. Like, if you want to play Shadow cards in it, it's super easy to do. If you want to play, like, Dragon Maid even, you can do that. Even though I don't really recommend it too much. You can even splash K9 in it. You can do whatever you want. And also, it's getting more support, even though the new support for Dragon Tail is maybe not, like, the best. But at the very least, Konami is not forgetting about it. And honestly, the deck is not expensive right now at all. Obviously, the more you wait, the more expensive this deck will be because it's going to start getting more hype. But last time I checked, 5 mana was like $12 Canadian, so that's maybe like 10 US or something. Maybe it went up a little bit. And then Altharion is worth like virtually nothing. And Mululu is also not super expensive. So yeah, if you want to get the deck now. And like I said, it is going to almost get you money in the long term. And also, it's not like the hand shops that you need are like particularly expensive. You can easily play without Izuna and Lupus in this deck if you just want to play like a different approach of this deck. And like I said, it's very fun and creative, so you can splash like some very cheap engines to it, so that's cool. Mekanko is a deck that might be a good long-term investment if the support is really, really good, but honestly, it hasn't been really interesting in the OCG. So I think it's like a locals-only deck, even with the new support. Really just not worth it whatsoever. Moonlight, on the other hand, fantastic long-term investment, extremely good, because honestly the only card that is worth a lot of money right now would be Gold Leo and Dominus Impulse if you want to play that card, and also maybe Heavy Polymerization. But apart from that, I can't really think of like one single Lunalight card that is worth like a lot of money that you need to play as a 3 of. It's not really that much of an issue, but yeah, obviously it's the kind of deck that gets better, not even with necessarily new support, but because of the older decks rotating out of the format. Like, for example, if Malice becomes less good, then Lunalight becomes better because then Artifact Lancia is no longer played. And then if Raziel gets rotated out of the format, then Droll and Logbird becomes less played because Droll was especially there for the Raziel and the Mitsurugi based decks. And this deck loses to both Droll and Lancia. Now we're actually seeing way less Droll and way less Lancia because way more people are playing the Justice Hunters decks. And not to mention that the new decks, they actually struggle to inherently deal with Liger Dancer. They can play a lot of hand shops, that is true, but if you do summon Liger Dancer, it's a wrap. Whereas like, Malice and Raziel Mitsurugi, not only could they play a lot of hand shops, but they also did have outs. So for example, for Malice, it was Cyber Wicked, and then you summon a bunch of monsters in the main monster in the main monster zone after that. So you can make like an access code and run over. You can do like a Heart Subscriptor with 5,000 attack. It was honestly really easy. And then for the Raziel decks, they had like Light Dragon Adagnister with Twins of the Eclipse and Dugaris to double the attack of Twins so that it would have 5,000 attack and could attack twice. Or they could make like Detonator with Dugaris to double the attack and then run over one Liger Dancer. But now you don't really have to deal with that anymore. It's really just the K9 based decks will be able to play Arc Rebellion, Xyz Dragon or something. But yeah, that's like the only thing that you have to be afraid of. So I think Moonlight is a very, very, very good strategy moving forward. And it's not super expensive. DDD, I also think, is a great long-term investment, but that one I'm not too sure if I'm gonna place it at the very bottom of here or like at the very top of solid value. However, if you're good with the deck, I think this is the kind of deck where you can play almost any format and outplay the crap out of everyone because it is a very complicated deck and obviously very rewarding in the right hands. Sofa Cord. This deck has been actually doing some things in the OCG, but even though like right now the deck is shit, like completely unplayable, The new support is really good, and the end boards are like actually Exodia. Like the only deck in the game that I've seen break the Sulfa Cord end board was this deck, Lunalight, because it activated heavy polymerization, went for a Lagro Dancer effect, destroy everything, and then attack for game. It's really that like idiotic sometimes, but yeah, no, this actually, honestly, they do have a lot of like banned cards in the OCG. Nightmare Griffin, Electrum, so that is a problem. But if it wasn't for that, maybe it would be a little better. So I do think it's either like cheap and decent or like locals only deck, but maybe like for the first event you can catch people off guard, but it is a pendulum deck, so you know, less room for non-engine, unfortunately. Dragon Maid is definitely, you know, a decent deck, and it's not expensive, but it's not like a super great deck. If you want to play like a fusion dragon deck, Dragon Tail is significantly better. The Onomat deck, or rather engine, whatever, you can splash this in so many decks. So the package itself is not expensive. You can play this with like the new Kage to Kage monster that is coming out, and I think Doom of Dimensions, and it's pretty good. You can even play like Utopic with the Onomat, or if you still want to play Razio, that's fine. Overall, I think it's definitely a solid value for what it costs and what it gives you. Voices Voice is also the same. It's always going to be like a good mid-range deck that is just like, you know, very good at being decent, and it's never going to be like insane, and it's never going to be garbage. Obviously, any deck that just makes Omni Negates, that has a lot of protection, that plays a decent amount of hand traps, it's always going to be seeing play in the format, and it's also worth virtually nothing at all. It's a very simplistic deck as well, so if you have like a friend who just started playing Yu-Gi-Oh, I think Voices Voice is like one of the #1 decks to like teach him how to start playing the game, because you don't even have to play with the extra deck, so it's not even like your combos are taking 10 minutes. It's really just like your ritual summon a little bit. You learn like chain blocking, how to negate your opponent's cards correctly, and yeah, it's very easy to like progress like linearly with a deck like Voices Voice. So I think it's a fantastic deck for people who are on a budget or who are new to the game. Crystron K9 and Crystron in general, I think this is like a less good long-term investment than these decks, because this deck, if you want to make it really good, you do have to play Izuna. And by the way, the deck that I'm talking about, Crystron K9, is Crystron and K9, but without Izuna. So it's still a good deck, but it's not insane. It's definitely not on the same level as these decks because of how expensive Izuna is. It's like 40, 50 for one copy. So yeah, that's way too much, and yeah, it wouldn't qualify on like a budget tier list. So yeah, if you want to play like a budget Crystron, you are at a disadvantage, I'm not gonna lie, but it's still very good. It's still much better than these decks, honestly, because you know, the best cards are still Joku and Sofadol, and those cards are worth absolutely nothing. Bro, like when you think about it, you only need like $10 worth of cards to make like 10 negates. It's absolutely ridiculous. Anyways, the Morganite stun deck is it's alright. It's kind of like Runic Stun 2.0. It's always kind of gonna be a thing. It's just not gonna be like a great thing. But if you win your dice rolls with this deck, you're winning a lot of matches. I'm not gonna lie. And also, if it ever becomes like a hand trap format, maybe this card, like this deck, could be okay, because it doesn't lose to hand traps, but it loses mega hard to board breakers like Dark Ruler and Majesty's Fiend and Vanity's Fiend or Christia. It's a wrap. So I think right now this deck is not good at all because of how people are deck building to beat the Justice Hunters decks, but maybe in the future. Anyways, Archmage, I think this is a very good long-term investment, just because we never know, like just like White Forest, right? It started off being a little and then it became like pretty good over time, and I do think that this deck kind of has like the same vibe as, you know, Fallen of Albaz and like all the lore surrounding it, where, you know, there's like, it's interconnected with a lot of different archetypes, and I think those archetypes might be the way Archmage ends up being good in the future. So it's either at the very bottom of this or like at the very top of solid value. Unchained is always going to be a deck that I think is worth respecting. You know, Unchained Soul of Rage into SP is very scary. The trap card is really good. The link to Yama, really insane. Sharvara, really good. If Sharvara comes back to 3, then the deck becomes much better, and you would be really happy about the fact that you invested into this. The Buster Blader deck with Blue Eyes is pretty nice, and I might as well just tackle Blue Eyes while I'm at it. It's cheap and decent. It's not worth a lot of money if you're not able to afford Dominus Purge, but it's also way less good, because then you're playing less good hand traps. And yeah, I think if you want to make these budget decks much better, then you're on the same, you know, boat as Crystron K9, where you need like 3 Zuna to make it much better and like competitively viable. So I think that's a problem for these decks. Again, I'm not talking about Blue Eyes in general, I'm talking about budget Blue Eyes. It is not the same deck. Necros, it's pretty much in the same boat as Dragon Maid, maybe a little worse because it plays less non-engine. Hero is really nice. Really, really nice. The new support that we're going to be getting is actually quite good. I've seen a lot of like replays in the OCG where this deck is, you know, it's pretty legit. I don't really think it has like a huge amount of room for like a non-engine, which is, you know, it's kind of an issue for like Hero, but still, being able to turbo out Dark Law super, super easily in a format where pretty much every deck loses to Dark Law. Like Dragon Tail folds to Dark Law, Loonlight folds to it, and you can also make a Dark Law with a spell card. So if your opponent has Dark Ruler, then you make Dark Law number 1, and then you make a Dark Law number 2 with a... Also, the new Masked Hero monster is really insane. That like also revised back from the graveyard or banished. Masked Hero Atomic, I think. This card is insane. You even protect yourself from Regeki, because Regeki used to be an issue for this deck, and now you really just don't care. Like board, like breakers and stuff, they're getting less good, and also hand traps are like a little not too good. They're hit or miss against this deck. However, Chummies and Droll, they can hurt a lot, and Nibiru is less of an issue now because you don't really have to make 5+ summons in order to do something impressive in Hero. So I think this deck is honestly going into a very, very good direction. I definitely do think the new Master Hero support is good. It's not insane. It's not on the same level as the new DDD support or the obviously Crystron K9 or Loonlight or Dragon Tail. No, these decks are on a whole other level, especially these 3 decks if you can afford like a little bit more money on the Zuna, and also I guess conversely for Dragon Tail. But yeah, I still think that Hero is a fantastic option if you don't have too much money, and if you're looking to buy a deck right now that is going to be getting better in the future instead of just something for just your locals at the moment. Anyways, Kashtira, yeah, that's just like a cheap and okay deck if you want to play the Fiendsmith engine. It's not too bad, but it's also not too great, right? You're not doing much of anything every single time. Punk, I think, is a little better than Dragon Maid and all these things. I actually think this deck deserves to be here. At the very least, if anything, maybe here or here. Honestly, yeah, it's not too bad. Sky Striker is remarkable, and I actually think, no, this is a very good long-term investment. It's not worth much of anything right now, but also whenever Camellia is going to come out, this deck is going to be getting much, much, much better, and it doesn't take much for a deck like this to be good. Like, if board breakers are worth playing in a current format, Sky Striker is a remarkable deck, because I think this deck is garbage when it has to play with hand traps, but when it plays with board breakers, then it's really good, because then, you know, your Engage is drawing cards religiously going second, since your board breakers are fueling like the bonus effects of your Sky Striker cards, and that's something that I've always appreciated with it. However, if you are forced to go first, then it's kind of like Tenpai, where you're not doing too much, and your engine doesn't really interrupt the opponent all that much. Like, you got maybe 2 pops or 3 interruptions, sometimes like a 1-card combo, but it's not super impressive, you know? It's not like you're making 10 negates off of 1 normal summon. No, definitely not. Sky Striker is a very fair deck, but it's still a good deck, but maybe at the very bottom of here. Sprite, yeah, pretty much a little worse than Voice's Voice, maybe, but it's also interchangeable. Sprite, Unchained, you know, this, well, same shit, right? Gimmick Puppet, I mean, it's an FTK deck, so if board breakers become like super, you know, prevalent and nobody's really playing hand traps, this deck could be worth playing, because honestly, if I get shummied when I play Gimmick Puppet, I don't care. Get your draws, I don't care. It really changes nothing to my life. So yeah, honestly, it's a really nice strategy, but I don't know where I would put it. Maybe here. It's not bad. It's really fun for locals, and it can even top regionals realistically. Like, it doesn't, like I said, it doesn't take that much for someone to just win a lot of dice rolls, go first all the time, FTK, and going second. I don't know how you're winning, but maybe. We never know. The Shining Sarcophagus deck, for sure, very, very good value. Even though it might look like a joke right now that I'm saying this, like, you guys are probably going like, oh, Yaxine, why are you putting Shining Sarcophagus, like, at the top over these decks? Again, Dark Magician of Destruction is a very serious card. It's really, really good, and any deck that can make it while doing more things is definitely welcome. Even though the new way to play Shining Sarcophagus has kind of been, like, denaturalized. It's not like you're doing, you know, normal summon Silent Magician or something, and then pass turn, and then gain 3 levels every... No, you're not playing that way, but it's still doing, you know, some really explosive things, and it's not playing too many bricks. This deck is really fun, and it's worth literally nothing right now, so you might as well, honestly. It's like a lot of secret rares, but nobody really cares about the deck, because It's never really been good ever since it was released, but it's about to be good with Dark Magician of Destruction. And it's purely same boat again as Unchained. You know, all we need to get is like 3 Sleepy Memory and 3 Happy Memory, I think. No, Pretty, forgot, no, not Pretty. Sleepy and whatever, the other one, like the one that gives a lot of like attack and defense. You understand what I'm trying to say. Anyways, Mimigul, garbage, I think. Not good. Really not good. I think this deck is like just mega overhyped for like what it does. It loses to like so many, I think it has one of the worst engines going second I have ever seen in my life. And it has to play, if you want to play pure Mimigul, I think you're like really restricted in what you can do. You can play this with like Yummy and then turn it into like an FTK deck, but then I think you're making the Yummy deck worse. You're not really making Mimigul better. So I think that's like the problem that I have with this deck. It's like a locals deck, but I don't really think it's too good. However, I will give credit to like some other decks that, you know, maybe like this is like not that far off from these decks, but I don't really believe in Mimigul too much. Labyrinth, yeah, I mean, it's a trap deck. It's not too bad. For sure, it's going to be somewhere here. Evil Twin, yeah, this deck is quite nice, for sure. But it's not really getting new support, so I think it's like a less good long-term investment than like these decks that are for sure getting new support that is really good. Gem Knight, yeah, I mean, it's a better deck than like Punk, for sure. And there's like cool ways to play Gem Knight, so I do believe in it. Ubel, yeah, it's just... whether like there was hand shops or board breakers in the format, this deck doesn't really feel like it has like the best time. So I don't really think it's like the best investment at all. And then Tenpai, yeah, no, I don't really believe in it either. And then yeah, this is also like very comparable to Kashtira, you know, Regenesis, which could also be considered Regenesis Kashtira. But yeah, that's pretty much it for this tier list of the best budget decks in case you have no money, just like me, right? If you're a brokey. But the main takeaway is that the best like budget decks, if you have like literally no money, would probably be like these 3, because they're worth like quite literally nothing. Especially this, like if you can just afford like 3 gold Leo, everything else should be like not expensive, and also 3 heavy polymerization. But there's still other ways to deck build. And then Crystron K9, same thing. All you have to do is now play Zuna, which is, yeah, you have a disadvantage, but you're still playing a good deck. Like outside of that, it's not like you're being like, oh, you know what, I don't have any money, I might as well just play like a, you know, like budget Blue Eyes with no Dominus Purge. Like this is like really far from being on the same level as like Crystron K9 without Izuna. It's really not comparable. But yeah, you guys let me know how you feel about this in the comment section below. As always, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys very, very soon. Peace.